Welcome back to my channel, where today I have another story from a neighbor who watched too many episodes of Judge Judy and thinks she's now a real-life judge with police powers. Just like in my last story about Karen's fake eviction notice, this Karen thought she was going to win her case by faking a document. So she tried to use fake cops to arrest me for not cutting my grass. But when she learned that I'm actually a U.S. Marshal, things didn't go quite according to plan. So let's dive into this crazy situation. It all started when my HOA president called me one day and asked if I would come down to the clubhouse so we could talk about my yard. Apparently, the topic had come up at the last HOA meeting, and they were worried because my grass was getting kind of long. Now, full disclosure, I do have a very busy schedule, and I travel a lot for work. And there were several months where I just didn't get around to cutting the grass as much as I should have been. But it was always well maintained, and it was never super long. It may have grown to be over 4 inches a couple times, but it wasn't knee-high or anything ridiculous. And since I've lived in the neighborhood, there had been 0 complaints from anyone. In fact, people always complimented me on how nice my yard looked. Well, apparently my HOA president was tired of seeing my grass grow. She sent out an email to everyone in the HOA outlining all the violations that I had committed, which included not keeping my grass cut, having weeds in the front flower beds, not watering my lawn enough, having a broken mailbox, and even having too many vehicles parked in the driveway. That last one is the most ridiculous thing to complain about. I only have 2 vehicles, and I park both of them in the garage. So if you see 2 cars in the driveway, that means I have company. And if you don't want to be rude, you knock on the door and ask. But apparently, HOA Karen was too good of a neighbor to do something so menial. The email went on to say that I needed to address these issues immediately, or else the HOA board would need to find someone to come in and do the work and then bill me for it. Now, I'm not really the type of person to sweat the small stuff, and I was planning on cutting the grass the next day, so I decided to just ignore the email and hope that it would blow over. But the next day rolls around and my grass is still too long, so I finally decide to just deal with it. I jump on my riding mower and start making quick work of the grass, when suddenly I hear a voice behind me yell, "Stop right there!" I stop the mower and turn around to see a woman standing there pointing at me and yelling, "You are under arrest!" I told her that she was probably mistaken and asked her if everything was okay. She just kept standing there glaring at me while I sat there scratching my head, wondering what the hell was going on. Then she finally said, "I am the law. You have violated several HOA ordinances, and I am here to arrest you." Still confused, I asked her, "Arrest me for what?" She just kept staring at me, and eventually got on her radio and said, "We have him surrounded." I repeat, we have him surrounded. He is attempting to flee, but we have him blocked in. Send the squad car. I knew it was going to be a long day, so I just hopped off the mower and started walking towards her. She was wearing a badge around her neck on a chain and a gun on her hip, so I figured she was serious. As I walked up to her, I put my hands behind my back and said, "All right, whatever I did, I guess I'll just go along with it." She reached out and grabbed my arm and yanked me towards her cruiser. I was half expecting her to put handcuffs on me, but instead, she just opened the door and told me to get in the back. Now, I can't help myself. When I see something ridiculous, I like to record it. So I pull out my phone and start filming. I posted that clip online, and some people commented that I should have known it was a prank when she asked me to get in the back seat of the police car. But honestly, with the way things are going in our country, I don't take any chances. If someone tells me that I'm under arrest, I get in the back of the police car. Plus, I knew that I hadn't done anything wrong, so I didn't really care if she wanted to bring me down to the station house. Once I got in the car, she asked me for my driver's license and registration, and when I told her that I didn't have it in my wallet, she got really mad. Then she started screaming at me to get out of the car. Once I was out of the car, she rum family style at me and ripped my phone out of my hand and smashed it on the pavement. Then she started digging through my backpack looking for something. Finally, she found it and pulled out a tiny little notebook that I use for writing down notes and random stuff. She started flipping through the pages when suddenly she stopped and pointed to a page with a bunch of numbers on it. "What is this?" I lied and said, "I have no idea what you're talking about." She stood there fuming for a second, then she threw the notebook on the ground and got back in her police car. She got on the radio again and said, "Cancel the backup. I repeat, cancel the backup. We're releasing him." She then drove off in her car without saying a word. After she left, I checked my phone and saw that I had missed a call from my boss, asking me why I wasn't responding to any of his texts. He had called me 3 times. I called him back, and he filled me in on what had happened. See, my boss had gotten a text from the chief of police asking him if he knew where I was. The chief said that I was involved in a disturbance, and he needed to know if I was a U.S. Marshal because he needed to contact the department. My boss told him that yes, I was a U.S. Marshal, and he gave the chief my cell phone number. Then the chief called me. When I answered, he asked me what the hell was going on. I explained the entire situation to him, including the part where she smashed my phone. He was furious. Then he said, "Meet me at the main office. We need to get you out of there." So I headed over to the main office. Now, after I talked to my boss, he let me know that the chief had spoken to the chief of police in the city where this happened, and they were bringing charges against the fake cop for giving false information to a law enforcement officer, obstructing justice, destroying evidence, my phone, and possibly even kidnapping. Turns out, she had made the same threat to a different guy in the neighborhood a couple weeks prior, but he just blew it off, and that's why nobody had come to my rescue when I was being arrested. But he swore that he was going to pay her back. So the chief showed up and introduced himself. Then he said, "Are you under arrest?" I said, "Nope." He laughed and said, "Well, then let's go get you some ice cream." We went to the local Dairy Queen, got some ice cream, and talked about what to do next. That's when I told him, "Actually, I think I want some revenge." He smiled and said, "Ooh, I like the way you're thinking." We came up with the perfect plan. Since she had threatened to have me arrested by the local police, the chief said he would make sure that they knew that she had tried to frame me. So he called over and asked if they had received the complaint. They said yes, and he informed them that I was a U.S. Marshal. He then told them that I had been detained by a citizen who claimed to be a police officer and asked if they could look into the matter. At the same time, I called the HOA and asked to speak to the president. When she answered, I said, "Hi, is this the HOA president? I'm calling about the code violation notices that I received. I just wanted to let you know that I'm a U.S. Marshal." Then I hung up. About an hour later, the vice president called me to let me know that she had resigned and they were going to reopen the investigation. A few days later, I was driving home from a trip when I got a notification from my Ring doorbell camera. Someone had delivered a package to my front door, and it was sitting there waiting for me. It was a box full of chocolates with a note attached that said, "Sorry for smashing your phone. Love, Karen." Everyone always asks me if I wish I had recorded the interaction with the fake cop, and the answer is no. I had a front row seat to one of the most ridiculous situations I have ever encountered, and I'm glad that I was able to experience it without the distraction of recording. Also, I highly doubt that any court would allow the footage to be shown as evidence since it was taken on private property without the other party's consent. Plus, I have better things to do than sit in court arguing about the admissibility of evidence. And that's my story. Thanks for watching.